Joseph, you've been a big proponent of fairer international taxation of corporates, of a minimum tax there. But as you know, the international discussions are complicated. So do you have advice for the European finance ministers? What can they do, Olaf Scholz, to push this agenda forward when you look at the American position?
Well, first, I think I'm optimistic that in January we'll have a new administration that will be more aligned with the notion of curbing tax avoidance, working with other countries around the world to get a more efficient and fairer multinational tax system. One pillar the minister has already emphasized, which is a minimum corporate income tax. But let me emphasize that that minimum has to be at a number like 25%. If we don't have an adequate level of that minimum will serve to be the maximum. If there's an agreement at 12.5%, the global, what began was as an agenda to make sure that multinational corporations paid their fair share, will have turned out to be an agenda to reduce taxation of multinationals. So it not only has to be a minimum tax, but a minimum tax at a level of around 25%. The second thing is a more principled issue, which the digital economy has brought home, which is the old system of taxation called the transfer price system is not fit for purpose. When I was chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, I weighed in and said, we have to change it. It's not a system that's working. That was 25 years ago. And it wasn't working then, and it's working much less well even today. And so what we have to do is move from that transfer price system where you make up numbers about where the origins of economic activity are, where the sources of returns are, and you have to shift that to what is called a formulaic principle, where you allocate profits in proportion to sales, employment, capital stock. And I can share with you, I think what is the proposals currently being discussed at the OECD are simply not adequate. They really represent the capture of this agenda by the multinational corporations and the countries that are closely allied with those multinational corporations.
So what's a good minimum rate?
So the way of taxing corporates we have is working with this figure in Germany, but I'm not that optimistic that this will be the global agreement on this in this field. So we can do our work together. You convince the United States, I convince the Europeans, and then we both will do it. But it is not that realistic at this moment. I think we are happy if we get something. And in the question of the way how we tax corporates, I do not agree with the concrete proposal we got from Joseph Stiglitz now, because as the Minister of Finance in Germany, I'm quite happy about the way of taxing corporates we have today. That means that profits are taxed where things are produced, that that profits are taxed where inventions are made and where services are developed, more or less. And what we try today is to find a way how we could reform this model to a way that is much more referring to the changes that are coming from the digital economy. And yes, this will have an impact on the way of taxing corporates globally. But the things we are discussing today are a more pragmatic reform in what we already have. but getting this is also a progress.
But let me comment, if I can. Within the United States, we have a lot of trade from one state to another. You can say trade within the United States is a precursor of the kind of trade that will exist globally as goods move around. And no one proposes in the United States to use the transfer price system. It just can't work. We use the formulaic approach. It's very successful. It's not perfect. It's a pragmatic approach. And what I'm suggesting, and it's what the Independent Commission of Reforming the International Corporate Tax that I'm a member of has proposed, is a kind of model that's based on what is done within the 50 states of the United States. And it is similar to a proposal that has been made within the European Union as well.